Good morning. In a second. Okay. So some inflation data got the markets cooking here. Morning, good morning. Happy Friday, Julia. And let's put up some charts here. So semiconductors were cooking yesterday. It may have been a little bit of a heads up, but that 180, bullish 180 reversal said it had to go up. But this market is a little Kukovitz. Had some false starts, not starts, but signals that didn't follow through. And there we go. All right. So, I mean, forgetting the news and the president's comments that flip things around day to day, looking at the chart, it's like, yeah, it all makes sense, you know, and you're looking back and you're seeing it follow through. Um, how this down day got a little tail, and then yesterday, this is the 180 right here, and it was preceded by this wild retest and reversal. You remember this day here, the tariff news in China and this big downdraft and all of this wild back and forth, back and forth. And these ranges are big. They're just big ranges. And putting them in a perspective of just historical patterns, it's like, yeah, it's supposed to go up. And now, this down move that had shifted many, well, the Qs and the spiders, and there's some others from uptrends to sideways trends as I look at it, because it broke through this major support levels. And most of the time, these wide range bars, two things. They're power bars. I'm sure you've heard me say that before. They're power bars, but they're also the weakest link. But they usually don't whip back and forth like this for this long before they retrace back up again. But hey, news, current market environment, things a little crazy, but you know, bought the lows. Yesterday was the 180, and now it's up. And from here, what are we supposed to expect from here? Well, we're supposed to expect whatever the chart tells us. And well, we went from potentially much lower to I'm not sure, I think I better buy, to so on. And so where it should go, it should continue to go up. And this is the more difficult part, where we say, well, up to where? Well, who the hell knows? We'll look at this or anything, the next whole number, 6,900, 7,000, 7,001, until the next news item maybe throws a monkey wrench in it. But this pattern supports going higher. And much as that might seem kind of illogical, after coming from this April low all the way up here, and these big red bars getting ignored or negated, what else can we think until something else happens? So here's the news bar, wide range bar, power bar, weakest link. So far, it's holding on to the gain, building support. Demand is coming in and creating a higher level that prices should move up from. Let's go to the Qs. So always look for agreement between markets, and same thing to different degrees. But big down, slop, wide 80, going up. Look for it to continue to go higher. Same story on the weekly. Now let's see what the Russell is doing. Saying, well, and I look at this, it's like, this is just the way markets are. We look for things to be logical. So that's how our brains work. And logical being, this one showed relative strength after the down day. It made a new all-time high again. It poked up, it gave back, and now it's lagging. And I assume it's lagging because of just the wildness and small caps and so on. But this should continue to go higher. It's not a desirable pattern as I look at this or anything else, this kind of craziness. I'd just rather find something that is tighter in this time frame. So same story on the 5-minute chart. And we really should be looking at the 65-minute, but as we look a little further to the left there, and that power bar pushed up through that resistance, we look for prices to move up, and it's relatively close to there. So we can't get too, like, okay, jump on board this. We can only jump on board if it gives us a pattern, and maybe this isn't the best instrument to do that with, but I just want to go back to the cues to see the 65-minute. And up, closing above there for now. Looks higher. I'm going to go back to the S&Ps for a sec. Same story. Here's just level of support, push through resistance, power bar. So, this says it's going higher. By day's end, we want to see it here or higher than this, not a topping tail bar. Right? Common sense. YM, lagging, whipping back and forth, up against resistance. So this is not one that we're interested or I'm interested in, not unless it went sideways for a while. And so there's not going to be any opportunities there. And we'll see if the prices pull back. Oil was looking so much like it was going to go lower, but it held that support. Let's zero in over here a little. And you see the pivot lows. So whenever we look to the left and see pivot lows, we assume there's going to be buyers. But after a breakdown, you don't anticipate that. And while it's possible, but it's another example of just sharp moves down, creating voids. When they're really bearish, they either stay down there, they go sideways and break lower, or they come up toward like a little congestion area and roll back over. But no, it's deep right back into this stiff resistance area. It's likely to hang there for a while now. I'm interested in what are interest rates doing on this news, because bond prices look like they were going higher. Here's the 10-year. So we've been looking at this pivot low over here for prices to stabilize, and they're up here a bit. And so it's good to see interest rates moving up a little bit. Earlier when we saw, well, we've been getting whipsaw back and forth, and you go back to interest rates going higher, then lower, then the transports breaking lower, then all the way back up. And if you look at them, they came down really hard the last couple of days. So this market's just been all over the place with opinions flailing back and forth about what will be. Bitcoin stabilizing at these lows, and this, coming down again. I'm just repeating because we have so many of these power moves that are getting negated. Just even on the upside, power move getting negated. So here's a down power move, and prices are stabilized here, and it's jiggling around. And if it can stay stable here for a little while, maybe it's heading back up again. Just we've got enough of a pattern here to be thinking put spreads, that's for sure. Directionally, not yet. But breakdown under the lows, stabilizing, retest, and wide bar up. So looking, well, like I said, it's a pattern. You can use it for put spreads directionally, not quite yet. All right, Qs and spiders are going to be gapping up, of course. And where are they? Gapping up to new all-time highs. Right? Gapping up over that prior high, which now puts a little void below. And let's just look at the 15-minute here. Well, this is what we call the factory work. Right? So prices are gapping up. I got to go back and see what they were there. 616, 616 and a quarter. And 15, 616. 616 and a quarter, right up here near that pivot line. So what do we got to look for? Well, we either have to look for an attempt to break lower that immediately is reversed back up again, some type of a breakdown failure. Now there's an unfilled gap or a pullback. That would be a big pullback. And it shouldn't pull back that far with this type of a pattern. With all this rattling around, it should not pull back that far. That isn't to say it won't happen, but with this type of a pattern, it just shouldn't. What should happen is that it goes sideways or it attempts to go down and there's enough demand to rip it right back up again. In any event, with a gap of this size, it's going to be, it's not for me anyway, it's not going to be any, jumping on board right away. And with the 5 minute not even having created a, guess I don't have a 5 minute, thought I did. Let's put this on 5 minute. Not having created any kind of a pattern yet, market wise, my perspective, there's nothing to do until I get a little more evidence. Like, so for example, you got this rattling around here. It spikes down here, maybe to this overnight area, or not quite, or it just comes down here and starts consolidating back up again. So we'll have to see how it shapes up. Spiders, same story. Power bar up. And this consolidation, I was waiting for what was that? Maybe that was just a bad tick. That was probably a bad tick. Let me look. See if the Qs did that. No, they didn't. That was just a bad tick. All right. Yeah, I see it came right back again. So it's building a little support area up here. And it's just, he's gapping over the highs. So wash, repeat. Same story. It's gapping above resistance. What kind of pattern is it going to form here? Will it pull back to fill the gap, or will it, consolidate a little bit more? We'll see at the open what it's actually going to do. That's when we get the real tell as to will it flip down or try and fill the gap, or that's the moment to see what's going to happen and how it's going to shape up. So silver is down on support and it's stabilizing down here. Maybe one more day. It came down real hard. Power moved to the downside, but it's building. It's building here. Let's go back to the 65 minute. It's building a little support area here intraday, and it's on major support. So on a short-term basis, this can provide an opportunity for longs. You just need a little bit more work. And gold, similar price action on support, rising 20. So that's look like the power bar. Could it possibly get negated? And we look at patterns like this and say, hell no, look at the size of that thing. Well, we've seen it happen. It's just the longer it takes down here stabilizing, the more bulls will gain more confidence. And let's just say the energy or power of this bar begins to dissipate and buyers will reemerge and there'll be nothing much to stop it from going up. We'll see what happens there. So interest rates are up a little bit. What is the 13-week doing? Continued confirmation that the markets believe the Fed is going to cut interest rates a quarter, a half. And that kind of thought is, as I'm thinking and talking out loud here, is what's potentially driving this market, that there's a belief, not only is the Fed going to cut, I mean, you go to the CME tool and, yeah, they're going to cut. I think someone in the room said there was like a 99% chance based on that information. But maybe the thinking is they're going to do a half and the market is just buy until it happens. All right, SPX. I was looking at the numbers before we started talking here. And this is what we want to see. This is way up there. This is way down there. It's below yesterday's low. And, the high marks have been touched the last couple of days. Very unusual for that to happen, but another, sign of how much traders are buying dips and a belief that it's going to go higher. So this is above a whole number. That's always a plus. And prices are, give or take, right about here is where the spiders were. And so that puts it almost in between the two. Now, well, I would just say I would not bet that it doesn't go up there. And I'll bet it doesn't go down there. And we'll see how what unfolds. All yours, Dan.
Good morning, happy Friday. 0 DTE. Yesterday at the close, we always in the green room talk about our end of day bias for the following day. And I was 100% bullish. 180 reversal. I said ideally we'd chop around one more day and then it would be full blown 1, 2, 3 party on Monday. But CPI, again, I'm no fundamentalist, but I'm shocked at this big old move. But CPI was 1/10 lower than expected, but it's still friggin' 3%. 3% inflation, which is on top of prior inflation. So it's nowhere near 2%, right? That's like 50% away. And the market rejoices. So it's just a head scratcher, but we trade the charts and I'm fully bullish here. Just as Greg said, a matter of getting on board. Snow, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I prefer 1, 2, 3, but it's a closing breakout. We've been focusing on that term a lot this week. Sam and others say, oh, it's not a breakout until it trades over this. But it's a closing power breakout, suggesting it will go through that. Now look at that end of day base on the 15, incredible strength there. So the question is how to get on board. It's gapping up $4. That's going to be the problem with most things. Closing breakout. Now that one did obviously not only closing breakout, but actual breakout. 809 looks great. Just figure out how to get on board. Yeah, hey Lisa. Yeah, definitely. Spiders gapped up to all-time highs. Absolutely. Yep. Tim is saying snow breakout. Yeah. We just talked about it. Yeah, and the monthly is bullish. All right, let me go to alarms. Like always, Powie. I was watching Greg mentioned this in the weekend video last Sunday to watch a pullback. So I've been watching it every single day. And yesterday was our turn at 50%, 20 MA. Looks fantastic. So I was going to get this as a long today over yesterday's high, but again, we got to deal with this gap. Docking, that's a buy setup over yesterday's high. Stone, I like. It's gapping up though. That's a breakout and a just bullish consolidation. That looks good. And this I posted as a put spread. Buy setup, deep retracement turned at the 50. Today's Friday, so over Wednesday's high. Put spread for next week. Rig T, and we did a bunch of these put spreads yesterday. They were gapping all these quantum computing companies. There's 4 big ones, and they gapped up, pulled in. We sold 1 DTE put spreads. Are all looking fantastic. And then the White House came out and said, "Oh no, we're not taking an interest in them." But you know what? I don't care. I don't care. So I'm going to be watching these for another put spread for next week. This one's weaker, of course. I'm in this one, but I didn't get this to the weekly. What's the other weekly one I gave? Rig T. Oh no, I did. Okay, so I gave the wait, Q. I always get messed up with these two QBs. This is the other one I gave, QBTS. So that expires today. We have the 29.25. Look, we got $5.50 of cushion with the gap up here. We did 4 U's, that's gapping up, so I had to tighten the stop. Yeah, you all in the green room, if you don't get our text alerts, um, you know, that's I give them during the day. But let's see here. Here's 4 U's. HTH. Here's what I gave pre-market. HTH alarm. Why do I have an alarm on this? I don't know. eBay alarm. We're every one of our positions is bullish in all 3 letters. eBay gapped up, so I moved stop break even on that. Bid, we've been in ever since Tuesday, gapping up. Looks great. Just slow and steady, slow and steady. This is a void. This is a fluid move down that leaves a void. Do you see any overlapping bars or pivots or gaps? That's a void. Here's our turn at the 50. I mean, when you take Greg's course and get some seasoning, it's like it's easy. It doesn't mean this thing won't then gap under my entry, and it's like what the F just happened there, but the interpretation is easy. You know, Greg had a great saying in MT Live on Wednesday, which I've never heard him put it in these words before. He's like, you know, we're gathering data with technical analysis. And it's like, oh, I need more information because we're working on our bias before we hit the mouse, right? And he says, you know, we gave many examples, but, you know, based on this bar, the tell, the thinking's over. Thinking's over. It's now time to hit the button and manage. And that's, you know, that bib was an easy example of that. Thomas, tell me what you want to do with this. Gapping up here to the prior high. You know, nothing for me. Wow, Intel has to be so freaking happy the day that Trump, you know, they went to the White House and they did their deal at 10%. The thing's been on fire ever since. And I remember talking in the green room way down here on this monthly chart. I said this could be the home run entry as a core long. And in retrospect, it surely was. But you know, you could do if there's any juice, so put spread on a pullback. NEM, you know, we had an amazing trade on silver in our ETF letter. We were in it 54 days. And then we stopped out this week on the pullback. But yeah, this sector's cooked in the short term. BKR gapping down. You can do the 49 0 DTE call spread if there's any juice. Deck. This goes into my category of bearish, very bearish gap. But let's see if buyers step up. Maybe 30-minute high, 0 DTE. I don't know. I got it here in the middle chart. Right now, it definitely looks lower. That's a bearish pre-market. AOK, we said yesterday, this stock is having troubles. That's a closing breakdown, bearish weekly, monthly. Had earnings, now it's gapping down. Ugly. Actually, I read a headline in the journal today that um, that they had their second massive outage of messing up all their flight scheduling. NXT, a possible excessive gap up. So it's the opposite of death. It's a bullish gap, but you know what? I checked already. There's no zero DTEs, but it would have been a candidate for zero DTE. But I already looked. Below, I mentioned this yesterday, Thomas. Yesterday morning with XOP and oil gapping up, I said directional and put spread. I did, I mentioned it, but never pulled the trigger. But maybe day trade based on the 15, but I would never swing that. And look at the size of the bar near resistance. Flex tape. Yeah, we were watching that for a while. And now you got a 180 closing breakout. But we'll earnings to the 29th, which is fine. CYH. Wow, it's moving up here. It was bullish daily, weekly, monthly, but now the gap is too big for me. So I'll put flex tape there. Now Z. I'm not sure the reward to risk on this one, John. That's my only problem with that. Wix. It's a bottoming pattern. Also, I'm not sure how far it'll go. But I like these split spread ideas. Let me see if it has weeklies. Nope. Nope. Mindy bottoming pattern. Hey, look at the 15 on that. Earnings 11.10. Saw that one earlier and I forgot to look at it. Mindy does it have, there's no weeklies, but it's still a bottoming pattern. This one could go to 210. So let's watch that on a pullback. All right, still alarm. This had that as a sell setup idea. LSID, nothing. That's like this. Those are old. Yeah, those are overlaps. Still, WKC gapped up, but came in hard, so I'm doing nothing with that. Hey, Bilko, Sergeant Bilko. Let's wait for a pullback. Gapped over the entry. Sergeant Bilko. GEN. I think this can go to the 200 maybe. I'll set a new alarm, 2740. Netflix tanking here in the FANG department. I always just glance up FANGs and the Qs kind of together. 2740. Gen. 4 U's. It's very spready. For you, 20. FFBC sounds like a regional bank. Yep, that was a sell setup alarm. The mine just went off. The it's whipping around too much. Nice eBay. Let's sell a third in the strength here. you know, there or trail if you want trail, whatever, 5 minute bars high, whatever. But we have a full lot, so I don't mind just selling the third in strength. That's a big, that's a big old, that's a big move. Sell one third at 98.63 and move stop 30-minute low. All right, so we have a 360 gain. It actually had a couple of false starts. And we have fairly light inventory. Yeah, Alex, you know, congrats. You had some beautiful entries yesterday and some gaps. I like the majority of them. I did put spreads on a number of them. Like this NNE. I'm going to let mine go out at full profit. I forget what strength I have. I'm short the 39 puts, $5 lower that expired today. And you know, the reason I can't close them now is because 5 cent bid and my puts are 0 by 25. The spreads are ludicrous. And that's the only reason I didn't give it yesterday was because of that. IONQ, our put spread's doing great. Up alarm. Rig T. Oh, coin I posted as a 0 DTE idea. Gap up. It's kind of a W bottom with a new low plus. Let me see if there's any juice at 320. Well, Netflix snapped right back. That was a crazy move on Netflix. 320s. 30 by 51. So no way on a $330 stock would I do that. But we can keep an eye on it for next week. That's an igniting gap. That's bullish. All-time highs from a 180. That's bullish. I'm full bullish here. It's just a matter of getting on board. All right, Powie's coming in. I heard that they don't have weeklies. I already checked. But it's Greg, do you like this pullback here for Powie? Yeah, it's right here, a minor support. Yeah, gap fill. Rig T, high alarm. Yeah, let's earnings 11.5. Let's go ahead and buy a half lot here. Stop yesterday low. Whoa, green. Built zone. Sergeant Bilko, all right, it's filling the gap, so that's a go. In 80. Um, that's a gap and go. I can't chase that. But yeah, that was a nice find. I think, John, was that you yesterday? Docking was posted. Um, okay, so Dawkins a go. Hmm. Yeah, market's that's full blown bullish here. Feels like, FOMO, new buying. I saw Wolf also this morning, but no good entry here. And an E. Yeah, it's a directional, sure. I'm gonna just let my puts go out full profit. I get the 39s. Actually, I'll try to buy the higher ones, 40.5. Bid one. I have no stop break even. Oh, I did not. Let me do that. Yeah, it started out when I looked up, that one was tanking for some reason on the 15. Yeah. Um, our DC9 gapped up. Maybe. Hmm. All right, we only have a half lot of those, but I don't like the way it's sold off, and that's not an excessive gap at all. Three. Keep an eye on him. Like Papa, alarm. No, well, you, it's not acting right. I just killed mine with nickel gain. Um, but the stop's 30, I'll leave it. The stop's 30% lower at break even. Yeah, that's not acting right. eBay, PCI, got in. All right, I think I got through all alarms. ABT, 1548. UBTF. Man, I always do this. Okay, here, let's move stuff. 3068. We have a full lot of this one. QBTS. All right, yeah, I'm gonna. 3 cents. I'm gonna try 2 cents. Okay, now prepare a new $10 bill. Nay, I was betting on next week. I said clearly, that's done. I said $12 by next a week from today. Maybe at lunch you can go get your ears cleaned. Yeah, that's fine. Fine. I would love a foot spread too if we go out to next week. 295 next week. That's no earnings date, so we would have to check that, of course. But otherwise, 50 cents. That's our kind of our staple. Well, why would you be out? I'm gonna move stuff break even. Okay, let me look.